What does it mean to say, I am? Is consciousness an accident of biology? Or is it the fabric of the universe? On Spinning the Light, we bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern inquiry. We're stripping away the illusions of the ego to find the radiant core of human existence. Join us, your hosts, Christy and Sharon, as we unravel the mysteries of the mind and illuminate the true nature of being. This is Spinning the Light.
Hello and welcome. Oh my goodness, we are so excited because this is really kind of a different thing for us in that we have been Two Girls in a Pod Life's journey since 2021.
Yeah.
It's been such an important journey. I feel like starting as Two Girls in a Pod was really relevant at that time because it was about dealing with anxiety around the COVID thing and all of that. And then it just morphed and we were able to have some amazing guests on and I think some really amazing conversations.
Yeah, for sure. We made a lot of really cool connections with people, and we so appreciate them coming on and sharing their stories. And that's still an important part of what we do, is sharing our stories.
And I think the other thing that is important is to know that this has been an evolution, and not just with the podcast itself, but this evolution journey that we've been on.
Yeah.
And just seeing things differently, experience things differently. And so then it was like, how do we define that? How do we bring those ideas and that journey that we've been on into a different kind of podcast? And then it became Spinning the Light.
Yeah. And we did an episode before under Two Girls in a Pod on Spinning the Light and kind of what it means. But I think that even as we have come along, we've deepened our own understanding of what really that means. And I think that's our message has always been about authenticity and showing up as that, the song, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." So I feel like that is where we are.
And, I feel like the more we talk to people about this and the excitement that people have had over this when we talk about this, and, I think too, having the conversation with our cousins about what that means to us and that we're going to have stuff that goes on in our life we have this flame and then crap happens. Life is happening around us and with us and all of these things. And so sometimes we'll feel that light kind of dissipating and some people feel like they don't have a light, but I promise you, everybody has a light. Sometimes it's a little ember.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we just have to find those people whose light is so freaking bright that we cannot help but feel ours being ignited.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is about. How do we help ignite the world and light that world? And it starts with each individual.
Yeah.
And what we can do and how we can make this a better place for us as individuals, but as a collective.
And I think that that's what we're realizing, is that our power lies within what we can do within ourselves to show up in that way, to be our most authentic self, and to have that love, kindness, compassion reverberate throughout the universe. And I think that we have to take a look inside. And so we have lots and lots of discussions about consciousness
And awareness and connectivity and gratitude and all of these things that I think really tie in together.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about this journey, when we talk about what does, kind of where that journey started. And I think it's always, there's always a journey, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this and we said, there was such a significant thing that happened with us. And I have such immense gratitude for it. to this day, I have this immense gratitude because I think it was a gift.
For sure.
And so it's kind of more your story. So I'm going to kind of let you.
Yeah, and it's one that's really near and dear to me.
Uh-oh, I may have to take over.
So when my dad passed away, I had got there barely just in time before he passed because he lived almost 1,000 miles away.
So he lived in Alabama, and we had just made a trip there and spent really quality time and went to a flea market on Saturday and just hung out and everything. We had to leave on Sunday, and by the time we left on Sunday, he didn't even get out of bed.
He wasn't doing well.
Yeah. And because he had
Pancreatic cancer. And so we had come back home and had to rush back because he wasn't doing well. He was at home. Hospice had already come in. And we were making the trip back as quickly as possible. And I barely got back in time, just a few hours before he passed. And just going in there and seeing him, and he wasn't able to speak with me, but he acknowledged me with a blink. And I was so grateful that I got to speak with him. I believe that he could hear me. And I was really tired because we had driven like 21 hours. And so I went and laid down for a little bit.
and you told him, you said, Dad, we're really tired. We're just going to lay down for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they came and got me and said he's passing. And so I ran downstairs and I stood there and I watched him as his breath left.
And I'm going to interject some parts here. And this was such a weird experience because we walked in together and we both stopped at the same time. And in my head, because this is where my thought process was, is okay, he's passing. What are some of the things I can, do to be helpful or whatever, and all of that, not only to you, but to your family. And well, we stopped. And then
Both of us watched his breath leave his body, and it was like I saw this light that started to rise up right out of his body. It was like a white golden light, and I saw it lift and fill the room. I saw sprites of light just fill the room and go up to the ceiling and just spread out everywhere. And there were other people in the room, and I glanced around to others to see, is anybody seeing what I'm seeing? And I was amazed, but the feeling inside, I was overwhelmed, of course, from his passing, but from what I was looking at.
And I was doing the same thing because I was watching this, and I watched as he took his breath and his body kind of concaved and this was happening. I'm thinking the same thing. I'm looking around the room, and then we both looked at each other, and we both at that instant and that moment knew that we were having a shared experience. We were both able to see this. Why others couldn't see, I don't know.
And if they did experience this, nobody had shared it.
No. And it was kind of like looking at each other, and you said, Did you see that? And we kind of, and I'm sort of like, did you see it? And we were talking over each other as we're trying to explain, and we're saying the same thing. Oh my God! And did you see? And it was light, and it was bright, and it was cool, and it was, and then it filled the room, and then it like all just dissipated. It's just like went everywhere.
Yeah. And then it just evaporated like into the ceiling and everywhere. It was gone.
It was truly a moment to have immense gratitude, because I feel like that was your dad sharing something, You know,
I believe it was. I believe that he was showing that our energy is continuous. And I believe that his energy is still with me.
yes. And so when we had that experience, it makes you start having these conversations.
Yeah.
And your dad passed away in,
Back in 2007.
and it was a really rough time because he passed away in on
March 2nd.
March 2nd. And then we had been going back and forth, and just it was just a crazy time for us. And so she is in grief and loss. And I am too. You know, we've been together a long time. I've known your mom and dad for many, many years. And we got over the rocky parts and developed a relationship. But then I got meningitis.
Yes.
And
Immediately after.
and so they had to fly me out, fight for life, and then flying me out. They started losing me and all this. And so she's having all these experiences and all of this, but all of that tied in because, and we're going to talk more about that later on, these parallels that with somebody else and just some different stuff. But it started that process for us of talking about what was that and to truly grasp. Now, what other people think and believe, this isn't about making people believe or think the way we do or anything like that. This is simply sharing these experiences that we had and to know that that energy came right out of it. Is that what we consider soul? I don't know. I don't know what that is. I think sometimes when we have these experiences, words words do not, they're just not there because you can't describe it. The feeling
Mhm.
was unreal.
Yeah. And we're very limited by language, really. I mean, it's wonderful to be able to express to the degree that you can what you experienced, but it's so true that I feel like it's so limiting sometimes.
And I agree. But to see that light, it was light,
Yeah,
and that was in him. And if that was in him, that is in all of us.
exactly. And as they say, I mean, even my tattoo is a memorial to my dad, and it says, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed.
And we are energy. So energy cannot cease to exist. Well, what does that mean? Is that energy, that consciousness that we talk about?
And I think that it is. When you actually look at the definition of consciousness, it says that the state of being aware of and able to perceive one's internal thoughts, feelings, and external environment. It encompasses alertness, self awareness, and the continuous shifting stream of perceptions, sensations, and cognitive processes. It's not just about being aware of what's going on around you, it's what's happening internally.
And I think even at a deeper level, not just me as an individual, Carl Jung talks about the collective unconscious. It is that connectivity to what was before, during, and after. It's a connection, it's a conscious awareness.
I think the perfect example of that is that we know that beyond death, our ability to love does not diminish.
Exactly.
And so that energy of love is regardless.
And I think that when we talk about frequency, the highest frequency that we are ever on is truly to love. And we're going to share in our episodes and talk more about that frequency of love and just frequency and all of those things. But when we're talking about that consciousness, it is not just an awareness to my body, it is awareness to the essence of who I am.
Exactly. They go on to say that what it means to really be self aware is that this is the ability to monitor one's own emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in real time, understanding how they impact you and how they are perceived by others. It involves recognizing your strengths and weaknesses and motivations, which foster better decision making, emotional regulation, and personal growth.
Yes. And that is that awareness that is, I think, even much easier for us to attain is when we're able to identify what am I thinking? What am I feeling? It's accountability. It's taking responsibility and all of that.
And it's taking your power back.
Yes.
The other thing that, when they talk about real time recognition, that means catching your behaviors and patterns and emotions and reactions as they're happening rather than reflecting on them later, because that helps you in the moment to be able to deal with those things.
And so much of what I do, when somebody understands the power that they have, the power to be present in this moment and to know in this moment, what am I experiencing?
Mm.
And what is that shared experience with the other person too, or whatever's going on?
Mhm.
That is that awareness. And it is such a powerful thing.
Mhm.
But it's been taken, given, whatever, or never learned.
Yeah.
And that goes along with our intuition,
Yes.
all of those things that make up this consciousness or this state of being.
Yeah. To be able to be aware of ourselves outside of the body and recognize the light within ourselves.
Yes. That light, that soul, whatever you want to call it, that frequency, that energy, whatever word you want to use, is the true essence of who we are.
Yeah.
It just is simply contained in the vessel of the body.
Yeah.
It is a partnership.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes maybe people are afraid of that because it can be very powerful sometimes
Mhm.
and we don't understand it. And there are many things we're going to talk about on here. We're going to talk about those things that we don't understand, those things that we experience, and maybe we don't have words to, or maybe somebody else has created a word for it that we use that really doesn't explain it or define it in a way.
Mhm. But I think there's so many people questioning who are we, where do we come from, and where are we going, and why are we here, and all of those things. We have had multiple discussions with each other, with others, and they're starting to realize that people seek through religion, they're seeking peace within themselves. Sometimes it's found through those channels, and sometimes not. And I think there's people that are looking to go deeper and ask the deeper questions.
And I think the only time those things work is when you're an active participant. But so much of what we have been taught is something external to us is going to save us. Something external to us is going to make us happy. Something external.
Mhm.
This is a conditioned thing with people.
Mhm.
It's not sitting in silence and listening.
And that's the big thing right there, is that we have so much outside noise, so much chaos going on. How many times do you hear people overthink everything and constantly planning, and we're constantly on the go? And I think that that has been one of the biggest things that has degraded, really, our ability to sit with ourselves and have that stillness, is where we create that disconnect from everything, all the noise outside. And once we have that, we can start listening to that inner voice, that inner intuition, really is what it is. It's a knowing.
The thing is you can't explain the knowing. It just is. And it's always there. But the problem is in chaos, I cannot hear. In silence, in that stillness,
Mhm.
there is a vibration. And it is through the vibration that we learn and we grow and all of those things,
Mhm.
you know.
And through our connection and our shared stories.
Yes. And that is so important.
That was why I had only shared that story about my dad with a few people. And we talked about this before doing the podcast, that I felt like that story needed to be shared, because I'm sure there's others that have experienced, I know others that experienced loss, but there's probably others that have experienced things they can't explain in that way.
And we're going to have episodes where we're talking about loss and what people experience, the stories that we've heard of when people, what those experiences might be like for them.
Yeah.
Because it's about all of those unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
It's about those things that we don't have definition to.
And I think it's when you face those things that's when you start to ask the big questions. Like I said, who are we? Where are we going? And what's our purpose? And why are we here?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we always say we're very spiritual. And I think a lot of times people don't even understand what that means. So what is spirituality? Spirituality may not have anything to do with religion. It may not have anything to do with organized religion at all. Spirituality is the personal search for meaning, purpose, and connection to something larger than oneself, such as the universe, the nature of the divine, and the closest we'll ever feel to the divine is to feel love.
Yes. And when we're talking about spirituality, people find spirituality in nature.
Exactly.
In relationships sometimes, through love, through all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality is a relationship with a higher power.
Nice.
That is more personal.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's what I think anyway.
But exactly. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the terminology. Some people refer to that supreme being as God, creator, source, universe.
Oneness.
Exactly. We have to get past the competing language.
And I think that's what this is about. This isn't about a competition. This is about collaborating. This is about sharing of ideas and thoughts to help conceptualize in different ways. It's not about this way is right and this way is wrong. None of that exists in this podcast at all.
No.
It is, how did you get where you're at? What were those roads? And sometimes the road might start with organized religion and then veer off and then come back or whatever, or learning, oh, I can be out in nature. Mm-hmm. And when one of my clients said, I did not realize I could feel so close to God being out in nature. I did not realize that relationship and that feeling that I had was the same as I had when I was praying to God in other places.
Exactly. And I think one telltale sign that you can look at is, I have to say, first of all, one of the quotes that I love from Maya Angelou is that all roads lead to all.
Yes.
And some people find answers through certain religions or things like that. And I think that one of the key things that we can do is that we can look at the commonalities and understand that each of these has a thread of truth within it that's intertwined amongst all of them. So if you look and gather the information and you look at the common thread that continues to show up, the commonality is the transformation and where humanity lives and what we can bring to one another and the kindness and care that we show.
And I think the other piece of that also is that this is not a competition.
Exactly.
This is not one is right and one is wrong. This is a journey. And in that journey, people will kind of sway around, go in and out, curve around, whatever it is. And that's okay. But what happens is when we make it a competition, we are closing a door to somebody or to some idea. And that is not growth and development. That is not about our growth. That is not about spiritual growth. That is about my way is the right way. This is not that. This is the fact that each of us is on this spiritual journey, this journey called life. what piece of my journey has a connectedness to your piece? Not what are the differences, but how is it truly connected?
Mhm.
And most of faiths will say, do no harm.
Yeah.
Love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
Care for the weak, the disenfranchised. Compassion and empathy.
Yep.
How do we transcend the ideas that we have been taught and prescribed and change it?
And I think that's why this discussion is so important. There are so many people that are searching outside themselves for the answers.
Yes.
We've gotten away from the inner knowing that exists within all of us. And that's because we've allowed the outside noise to override that internal sense of discernment.
Yes.
And it really does live in all of us. And it's up to us to silence the chatter and the overthinking to be able to come to that peace. And I think there's so many people right now that don't have peace within themselves. There are so many living with anxiety and so many things like that.
There's so much heartache over things and stuff, and we just need it. This is that platform where we say, how do we have these conversations? How do we bring, if it's a different view, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey. And the truth is nobody has the answer.
Exactly.
These are all unknowns. We think we do. We want to because it makes us feel better. If we think we have the answer to the end.
Yeah.
But the problem is we can't have the answer to the end because there is no end.
Exactly.
There is no.
I always like to say, I feel that we are all souls here on this planet having a human experience.
Exactly. And our thing is, how can we have and be the best humans we could possibly be on this journey into this place of consciousness,
Exactly.
into this place of learning these frequencies and why they're important. And we're inviting you in on this journey. We want to create a community. We want interaction.
Yes.
We want to know, what are your thoughts? What are these experiences that you have? And so you can find us.
We really want to build this community and have these discussions. Sharon and I have these discussions all the time. And we want to bring this community together to open up more and hopefully create that sense of connectedness. And so feel free to email us at connect@spinningthelightpodcast.com. Of course, you can still find us on social media, still under Spinning the Light podcast. And we want this community to engage with us. So reach out if you have questions or that, or inside thoughts about what we've talked about.
The other thing is that we also have our YouTube channel, which is Worlds of Wonder. And that's where we really want to bring the outer world and the inner world together. So it's going to feature our travels, because it is through our travels and it's through learning about other people, other ideas and cultures and stuff that we gain knowledge and we're able to make different decisions and choices.
Yeah. So on YouTube, Worlds of Wonder, Spinning the Light. That is the handle. And you can find us there. You can also reach out to us on there as well. We would love to hear from you.
And we're so excited, and we're really wanting people to join us on this journey. And we will share so many different stories, personal stories, but also stories from people we've encountered, and a lot of them trying to find that peace or trying to have that explanation or trying to understand why stuff happens or doesn't happen, but
Trying to make sense of things that are sometimes difficult for us to accept.
yes. So once again, welcome to Spinning the Light podcast. And we'll be back. We're going to be talking about these things, and and if you send stuff to us, we will share them on the podcast so that we can have this. And I don't know if eventually we'll do live ones too, so people can jump on. Those are things that we're looking at. We're not there yet. But
if you are interested in jumping on live, Sharon does do chat. It's called The Chat on Noom Vibe. That is an app. And you are welcome to jump on there and hear her live on Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Because I guess I always have something to say. I don't know. Anyway.
That's great interaction.
It is. It's a community and it's really fun.
Want to leave you with a quote from Eckhart Tolle? We cannot change the world unless there is a change in our state of consciousness.
So thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next week.
Bye.